Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to chat with Diane and myself, predictions for 2023 Barrie real estate market, some pros, some cons that we see, and our own views and predictions of where the market's going to go. If you like this content, give it a like, subscribe, and if you need
Next battle, I'ma better go bigger and better. If I ever lose, set it on faster than ever. If I ever lose, set it on bigger and better. Even roller coaster can bigger, bolder, faster.
So I was looking on the internet and trying to see all these 2023 housing predictions, and everybody has a different prediction, eh? Like,
of course we do.
BMO shoves one out there, TD shoves one out there, the Ontario Real Estate Association does, and they actually, this is a funny thing I found out today, they rate the predictions at the end of the year to see who was actually right, which means nobody knows, right?
Well, that's it. And no one's going to know, right? It's all prediction. And how many times have we seen things in the past of anything that we predict this and it doesn't happen, the total opposite happens? The bottom line that I'm concerned with is I really don't give a shit what the predictions are from BMO and Bank of Nova Scotia. My main concern is, what is that buyer consumer going to do? That's my main thing. Are they going to rush back into this market? I don't think rush is the appropriate word, but I think they're going to dabble their feet into it. And looking at the activity in December kind of makes me change my mindset a bit, going, wow, didn't see that coming. There was some activity in December. So new calendar year, 2022 is hard on a lot of people. You know, a lot of people were feared by the media, of course, out there about inflation and the market's going to tank 50, 60%. Don't do it. Rates up. So, you know, the market didn't do those things. We didn't see a big, gigantic sell-off. We've seen a sell-off in a sense of from the peak, but we go year over year numbers. We're not looking at peak numbers. And I think that consumer out there, buyers reading into it that, oh my God, they're down 50%. No, they're down 50%.
Okay, listen, Mark, the numbers in January are going to look like they're down by huge amounts, because if you go year over year, okay, last January, February, March was the height. It was craziness. So now you're going to look at the prices this January and the prices last January, and the gap's going to look even bigger. It's going to be like the prices are down like 40, 50%.
For the first quarter, I think you're right. January, February, March, we've seen the shift. So then we'll see, I think March, April will be the true indication of where we're going, because you're 100% right. We're going to be up against peak numbers and high performance numbers in the first quarter.
And it's going to look horrifying. Like,
it's going to look horrifying.
Yeah, I've been saying this since like October, November, when they started releasing the numbers.
Yep.
I remember in 2021 selling what my listings were selling for, and we are still selling higher than that right now. They're still not as low, but
right.
When you look at the peak, and then now it looks horrifying.
Correct.
And we haven't even hit the highest peak of January, February, March yet. So the media is going to have a heyday. It's going to look terrible.
Yeah, they are. They're going to have a heyday with it. And there's only one positive in a sense, is that, you know, looking at the board this afternoon, there's still not much. There's still a lot of terminations and stuff like that, and relisting the properties, you know, some at a lower amount, some at the same price, get rid of the 22 and put a 23 in it. But there's still not a lot of activity, and that's kind of normal, right? And I don't think we're going to see that, because even last year we're in a tight inventory market, which is normal. January, Feb, March, and then March, and near the end of March, when those kids went back to school last year, that's when things kind of, we all noticed a flood on the market. You know, I've always said, and I talked to a client this afternoon before doing this, and, you know, and he's asking about when to list his house and stuff like that. And I said, you know, January, February, March are good months to do it. Not right now, but February, I find the first quarter of the months kind of gives a direction of where the market's headed to for the remaining 10 months, 9 months. in sense of pricing, right? Because we're going, oh, wow, that 2,000 square foot bungalow, got $995. So that's the new norm for that neighborhood, possibly, right? So right now, are we
Well,
going
you know
to
what
see
I
that?
also noticed right now, Mark? So I've been checking the board because we were on holidays and
Yep.
you were skiing every day, which you
Yep.
still are.
Yep.
I heard you almost died, actually.
Yeah, we had a life-changing moment. That was back a couple of weeks ago. And when they say when your life kind of flashes in front of you, that it feels like it's just going, everything's in slow motion and it feels like forever. So I was zipping down the hill, and there's a part I always look, and of course I give a shoulder check. Great, I'm clear to keep going through faster. And this guy's further away from me, so I have no worries. And then he's kind of going, and he cuts right in front of me. And then I actually envisioned, okay, how bad's the injury going to be? Is an ambulance going to be called? And I know I'm not skiing. I know I'm not skiing for the rest of the year, maybe 2. And I don't know how I did it, but I maneuvered around this guy, and I went, oh my God. And that's hasn't happened to me in years.
Your heart was probably going 100 miles an hour.
Yeah. So I have a new rule. My rule is I ski Mount St. Louis side in the morning, and then soon as it gets busy with traffic, I go over to Moonstone where it's quieter. It's a lot of people just stick to those main areas. I kind of go to the other hill, and it's a bit steeper terrain. So it's, kind of getting rid of some people. So I do that. So I'm never going to have another episode like that ever again.
No, it's, what the problem is. It's not the experienced skiers, right? It's the people that don't know what they're doing.
Correct. And you got to watch them, right? Because you know where they are. You can see them in the lift lines. You can see how they're dressed. You can tell by if they have their own equipment or rental equipment. So if they're rental equipment, they're just out for, I never did this before and I'm going to try it, or my friend suckered me into going and I've never skied before. So you're going, oh my God. So, I spot them pretty early, and I often just will sit at this top of the hill for, I don't know, 30 seconds, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and wait, because I'll see them standing and they're going, well, do I go? Do I go? I'm not going until they're gone. I know they're going to plow right into me. So anyway.
That's funny. Well, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you made it through, and you're still skiing.
Still skiing. I'm lucky. The base is holding up well, so I'm fortunate.
So I was looking at the board this week, and a lot of the sales are high prices. I was shocked, like 1.3 million, 1.6 million. And I'm thinking, so the interest rates don't affect the rich people. People with a lot of money, it doesn't matter.
They're not impacted by this. I was talking to a colleague of mine who works more in GTA markets, and, down there, that $2.73 million customer, there's no problems. Those properties are turning faster than the 1.4 and 1.5s down there, because totally different demographic, totally different income status can support that. Up here, 1.3, it struggles. And I know the property that you're talking about. I think it was Scott Cooper that listed it in double end of the deal. And I think it was on the market for a day. And I went, holy cow. And I was talking to someone about that today too, I saw 2 sales that were kind of threw me for a loop this early in the game. So, sometimes the right inventory, right time, right place, right buyer, but I was shocked. And,
yeah, I've been watching it, and there was 1-2 out in Springwater, 2.8 or something. And I'm thinking, like, the market's supposed to be slow, prices are falling, interest rates are killing everybody, but they're not killing everybody.
They're not killing everybody. And I've seen a lot out in Springwater, Snow Valley area too, selling in the $2.4 to $3 million range, and within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because again, that buyer's not impacted by what's going on economically.
No. So right. I mean, it's the average everyday working dude that's getting into trouble.
100%, right? And that's the biggest thing. And my thoughts on predictions is I think that there will be a pause coming at some point. We're going to find out this month if the Bank of Canada is going to, keep to their strategy of raising, which if they do, I just think it's 25 basis points, or, I don't think they're going to be bold enough going to 50, because I think that's going to put a little bit fear in people. But I think there's a pause coming. And I think once that pause does come along, I think you're going to see some of those buyers get off the couch.
Well,
I
and
really
not only
do.
that, right now, okay, I have a lot of clients who are locked into a mortgage rate for a year, 2, 3 more years.
Mhm.
They're just holding tight.
They're not moving.
Nobody's moving. So
Nope.
why would I sell and
Yep.
get into National Bank stopped allowing porting your mortgage. So right? So you can't
Yep.
import the mortgage. So why am I going to sell and get a 3 or 4% hike in an interest rate,
Mhm.
plus a low amount for my house? I might as well just stay there.
I agree.
Which means the inventory levels, I think in 2023, they're not going to get much better.
Right. I think too, and I think the same thing. So that's why I go back to January, February, March kind of analogy, because what happens if we see, so are we going to see a reversal with sellers? So think about this. All the inventory came in March, which is kind of normal into March. We get some nicer weather, et cetera, time to list the house. But it all came at once last year, because that seller, when you think about it, oh my God, my neighbor got this. We need to jump now before this market changes. Everybody jumped on that bandwagon, and it just oversupplied the market. And then people got scared and going, whoa, we didn't sell, we have no showings. What's going on? And then we seen some price reductions coming along. Then we seen the bad news coming on about rates being increased, and we going to do this. So that kind of put a sour grape in a lot of people's minds. And then this year, like I said, we're not moving. We got 2 more years in our rate. We're going to sit here and enjoy this low rate. And then maybe in 2 years, so they're not selling. How many people are in that position? There's a lot.
You know what? A lot of my people, a lot of my clients that I've talked to, a lot of them.
Yep. 100%.
And a lot of them refinanced at the height. They took money out to do renovations.
Yep.
But now I still have that low rate.
Yep.
And now my house isn't even worth, like, I only
What
had
they praised it at.
yeah, I only had
Really?
20% equity in it now, because I pulled a bunch out, and now it's not even worth that. So I can't even really sell. I got to sit there.
I agree. So that could work in the favor for this market pricing to go up, supply. So if these buyers do return, which we know they're going to. We've all had clients last year going, you know what? No, I'm not doing nothing until the new year. Yeah, but there's 6 more months of this year. No, I'm not doing nothing. Okay. So they're coming back. I really believe they're coming back. And I was corresponding with a mortgage professional on my social media platform, and she made a comment. She said, because I was talking a little about December and quite surprised with the numbers that I've seen and the activity in the marketplace. She goes, we've had a ton of pre-approvals done with clients in December, a ton. Wow, that kind of surprised me. So,
well, you know why? Because when you think about it, if the rate keeps going up, if I get a pre-approval now, my rate is held for at least 90 to 120 days.
Yes.
So I'm guaranteed at the lower rate.
100%.
So if I think in 2023 it's going to keep going and going and going, then I need to kind of make a move now.
Well, yeah, but did we see that last year? We didn't really see that as much. We knew the rate. Look, we had 7 rate hikes. Did we see buyers? Did we see a little bit of a boost? No, not really. Where previous years, when we saw rates go up, a lot slower rates, we saw a little uptick in the market. We didn't see that last year. So,
because people are still listening to the media, they're expecting a big crash still. My clients are still saying, well, in 2023, they're going to go down even more. Correct. So I looked at all these rate prediction people, and they're still saying, one article said that rates are prices are going to go down by another 10%, but you better check your local real estate market, because not all of them are doing that. So the national average was brought down by Toronto and Vancouver, because they went down like over 13%.
Right.
But other places didn't.
No.
Like, we're not all dropping and dropping and dropping the way the media is portraying. And the problem with that is, When you have a buyer, they expect that it's gonna drop, and it has dropped, and it's gonna keep dropping because they're listening to like national news, but we're all in our own little markets. It's
Correct.
not all the same.
It's not in the big markets, but even though, like, you know, down south in GTA markets, and my colleague was telling me, yeah, things are selling over list. There's no product to sell. And what he told me, a funny thing too, is that down there, so it kind of starts, the push kind of starts now. And what I mean by that, he said, okay, so I live in, I'm going to say Richmond Hill, and I want to go to this school zone. Well, the kids have to be registered in that school to be in that school zone in June. So they need to buy in January, Feb, and probably close May and June to get into that school the following year. Where I go, really? Where we don't really have that. And I found that kind of weird. So he said, I have a handful of buyers that have to buy before June, have to be in that school zone before June, and there's no product. So, and he's saying like some stuff is turning relatively good because of that reason. So what happens if that inventory doesn't come on? I think prices could are they going to skyrocket? No, I don't. I think those days are done. But you know, I think they're going to be at par, if not a little bit better, once we hit that March number in April, where we have true, you know, year over year pricing in a sense of similar conditions. But I think it's going to be a bit better now, but at least that will give us some ideas, right? And as you know, as we progressed last year, March, prices came in April, they kind of came down and they kind of stabilized for a bit, right? Especially, you know, let's just call the 9 and under price point, kind of stayed relatively stable, and it is still very stable. It's that higher price point, say $1 million to $1.3 million, whatever, you know, is that going to take another beating this year? I don't know. I mean, that's
the one that seems even right now to take the most beating. The lower price ranges, like they took a drop, but like you said, like the last 3 months, they're still holding pretty steady. They're not plummeting.
Right. And we can't forget, everybody's a fucking real estate agent too.
Oh, everyone God.
Comments on this is what's going on. They should be listening to professionals and not challenging professionals. Like if someone wants to sit down and look at data, call me up. I'm glad to share the data, what we see. But you know, they're listening. We know where that media, they're listening to media outlets, and they're listening to bad news articles that's telling everybody to do this. What does the Bank of Canada want everybody to do? They want everybody to stop spending. They don't want people buying houses. They don't want people spending money. Because that's helping the economy.
Yeah.
They're trying to slow down the economy.
Well, and the Bank of Canada, that stupid Minister of Finance in 2020, you posted videos on it, how the rates are going to stay low till 2024, and you can buy houses and don't you worry. And they were full of shit anyway. Like at the end of the day, nobody knows what anything's going to do. I looked this morning and I saw 5 different articles on 2023 predictions. Yep. They're all totally different.
Everybody, exactly. And there is a lot, and that confuses a lot of people. But, you know, like, why don't they just go and talk to some real estate professionals in different marketplaces, in micro markets? Go to someone in Barrie, go to someone in Richmond Hill, go to someone in downtown Toronto, go to someone in Burlington, Mississauga, whatever. Get their insight. These are people that are working it for a living, that knows what's going on. I don't see any of them being broadcasted on any media outlets. They're all opinions by people sitting on the desk that they're not in the profession. But
well, you know the other thing is, Mark, I've always said this since I got into real estate years and years ago. The average price is skewed because, say in Barrie, so there's not a lot of $2-3 million properties that sell. Let's be real. So if you get a month where 2 or 3 of them sell, your average sale price for the month is elevated huge.
Correct.
If you have all of a sudden a rush of condos at 400 selling, well, now your average is plummeting.
Correct.
So the average price, sale price, is also not necessarily an indication of what the market's doing. It just means there's more houses selling at a lower price. or there's more houses selling at a higher price.
Correct.
Like, you can't just go by that.
No, and I don't think, anyone explaining or in front of people giving them opinions of value or valuations, I don't think a lot of us are using the average price, even though we talk about it lots and we see all that in the media. Average price is down 30%, but it's not an indication of what's going on in that marketplace in a sense. There's, give it, break it down by, if you're going to give an average price, and break it down by property type. Even then, but condo, maybe 3-bedroom townhome, 2-bedroom townhome, 3-bedroom apartment, waterfront prop. But that's a lot of detail, a lot of research, and no one's going that in depth with it. So,
No. But when the average Joe is watching this and listening to this,
right,
it sounds horrendous.
Right. Well, it is. It scares people. But I think people are gonna be done being scared after a while. I think people this year will make a move. I think you will see that in the marketplace. Are we going to see first-time buyers? I've never think first-time buyers are a big part of this market anyway, but we may see investors jump back in, maybe.
How about this? This foreign investors can't buy anymore.
Yeah, I don't know a ton about it, but
do you think that's our problem? Do you really think
that just goes to appease voters? And then
thank you.
My buddy we talked about the other day, and he says, what they just do is they all have family over here. So the family just goes, they get the money, move it to the family goes, buys that. Nothing's going to change.
I've been seeing it for years.
Right.
Where they put the money here for 3 months.
Yep.
They put it in their brother's or their sister's bank account.
That's it.
And they buy anyway. Like it
no
doesn't.
One's checking on it. There's no one's checking on anything.
No. And honestly, the prices haven't been going up because of foreign buyers.
No.
It's people in this country.
Absolutely. I mean, the articles that I've scanned through over some time, talked about, again, didn't say foreign buyers, just talked investors accounted for 20 to 25% of the sales in 2020 and 2021. I mean, that's a good number. That's a pretty solid high number. It's sure not that way today. Count that, then let's just say it's 12%. But there's still people buying. I mean, there's still properties on sale. And people got to stop looking at, okay, well, great, the house was 1.2 and my mortgage payment, I'm making this up, 3,000. Now the property's 8,000, 800,000 or 900,000, and my mortgage payment's 3,100. Well, who cares? Like, you're not moving tomorrow. You bought that property on sale. There's so much supporting data on where this market will be going in the future. I've talked about it all the time through immigration. That's going to be the biggest one, right? The millennials are becoming home buyers. Yeah, they're going to take a while, but they're buying homes. You got an aging population that's going to be downsizing, so there's going to be activity in the marketplace. So
there's always activity. I mean, people split up, people get divorced, people pass away. Right. There's always movement. And if you look over time, real estate is like any other investment, like the stock market. It goes up and down and up and down, but it never goes down and stays down. It's always on an upward climb. So as long as you're going to hold something, or you
over
have
time.
It
has to be over time. Right? Like, it's not fluctuations like a stock market, where a stock market goes down today and real estate prices don't do that. It's a trajectory a little bit longer time, but people aren't moving every 6 months, 5, 10 years, some 15 or 20. So taking a long-term approach to a purchase is the right approach to take, and not get caught up in all the noise and think, oh God, my house is down. Okay. Are you selling? Oh no. Then what do you worry about? What do you worry about then? I talked to a guy today, and he was doing a new build, and he did it. I was talking to him. He's a neighbor of mine, and I ran into him a couple times in the fall and summertime, and how's it going there? Of course, he's a little nervous about, well, things kind of went down a little bit and contracts at this price and stuff like that. But you know, we talked today. We actually had a discussion on the phone. He's going, I really don't care. You know, it's a new home, and yeah, it's a contract price, but I'm not moving for 20 years. Then you have nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
That's the truth. You have nothing to worry about. Yeah, on paper right now, you're going to show that you overpaid. Are you moving next year? No. Are you moving 5? No. Maybe 20 when the kids are gone. Then you have nothing to worry about. And that's the
Yeah.
right way to take it as.
Well, my
Right.
dad bought his first house, I think, I don't know when it was, in the 60s or something, for $30,000.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Over time, you are never, ever going to see things go back down to $30,000. The cost of building and construction is too high.
Right. Correct.
So if new builds are at a certain level, how do you expect the rest of the market to plummet? You know what I'm saying? They're creating a market value.
Correct. And some builders too, as we've had further discussions in the past, where they've put their projects on hold. It's not feasible to, the market's not there for this. The cost to build is so much per square foot. We're not making any margin. It's right now is not the time to release that project. Let's just pause it. So does that play a role in supply and demand? Yeah, it does.
Well, and you know, what's happening now happened in 2017 as well, where I saw it down in Innisfil, Country Homes. They pre-sold all these houses, right?
Yep.
And then when they started closing, they weren't appraising out.
Yep.
Because houses that had been built for, say, 6-8 months or a year in the first phase were selling cheaper than what these new builds had been sold for.
Right.
So they just withheld, they just paused it and stopped the rest of the closings.
Right.
Because the people can't get mortgages now.
Right. Right.
So, and they're doing it now, and they did it in 2017 for a whole year. They just stopped everything, because if everything that you pre-sold is valued less than what you sold it for, how the hell are people supposed to get the money?
Well, that's it. And that's happening a little bit, right? There's still in this community and other projects going on where, great, we got our mortgage approval and we submit that to a builder or developer as proof that the financing's in place. But that financing was in place at this rate at that time of day in that time of year. 4 years later, things changed. That rate went up. I can't qualify for that anymore. How are the builders dealing with that today? I don't know. Like,
they're having problems. I read a big article. And this guy in Mississauga bought for 1.1 million or something. And of course, now he can't close the deal because the interest rate. The problem with the mortgage approval, me and you have talked about this, it's only good for 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
So when you buy a new build that's a year away, you don't have a full approval because you can't.
Oh, no.
So then 3 or 4 months before closing, now you got to submit the deal.
Correct.
And if the interest rate run up this ridiculous, now you don't qualify. How the hell do you close the deal?
Wow, that's it, right? And that's the thing, right? It's, let's just hope 2023 isn't have so many daggers in it and so many different things in it to either scare buyers or make it, more scarier, sellers making decisions. And I don't know, let's kind of, what's your views? What do you think this market's going to go next year?
Well, I think we're still going to have a supply problem. And I think as long as we have a supply problem,
higher low.
Low. I think nobody is moving unless you absolutely have to. Like in December, I never saw so many estate sales, because that's all that was coming up is people that, really had to sell. I'm not selling right now if I don't have to. So I don't see, especially in the first half of 2023, I don't see that changing. I think everybody's going to hold tight. Nobody knows what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And so inventory is going to be low. People that have pre-approval rates they're going to want to get in the market. So I think it's going to hold pretty steady. I don't think we're going to see a huge influx.
I don't think so either. I don't think on the supply side, I don't think we're going to see that. I think there's going to be some people that, you know, will be forced to trade up due to, you know, new additions to the family. I think that's going to be a big one, right? That's going to take place. You know, maybe we're going to downsize, or, you know, me and my parents are going to
Moving
trade
together.
up, move
You
in
see a lot
together.
of-
We
Yeah.
may see that a lot, right? Where, you know, they've sold their home and now they're going to help the younger, you know, their kids get into a home, and they're going to take the upstairs or downstairs or whatever and possibly buy it together to give their, you know, loved ones a little boost to get into the marketplace. You know, will we see, you know, it's not uncommon where, you know, we're seeing more and more, you know, elderly people giving their inheritance to their kids earlier. They're in their 80s. Why not? Why not we, you know, they're getting everything now, and maybe we're going in 5, they got 10 years left to live. Why don't we set them up now?
Well, you don't have the inheritance tax either. Like when my father passed, there's an inheritance tax, right? If I just gift it to you now, there isn't one.
Correct. So how good is that to help out? So there could be lots of things, right? And a buddy of mine called me the other day, and we're talking, and his dad passed away and left him some money, and he's relatively well off, and he's going, and my daughter's 26. She needs to get her place, and she lives right in that city, and living with her mom and stuff. And so he gave her a couple $100,000 to set her up. Here you go. This is going to help you go get your. She bought a condo. Yeah, she paid $6,000 for it, but she's right downtown. I mean, you know, but you know, thanks to dad for helping out and going here. She wouldn't be able to afford it on her own, not even close.
Well,
so,
and I think that you're going to see that, like I see that with the duplexes and stuff that we're selling. It wasn't investors buying it because they're not cash flowing with these interest rates. Investment properties aren't going to cash flow. So, but I saw most of the people that were buying them were families anyway.
Yeah. If there was 0 people living in there and there's no tenants and, you know, or no leases in place, then yeah, like, yeah, they're gonna sell. And you're seeing even in my neighborhood where I seen the builder build 2-unit houses, all legalized, separate entrance, separate AC units, you know, you name it, like everything's done up. They're big. You know that there's one family occupying the whole house in a sense, right? Meaning that relatives.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, they have to, right?
Right.
They have to, because no kid can be on their own anymore. I mean, every parent I talk to say, my kid's never going to be able to afford a house.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah, that's, you know, that's a tough one, right? And you think about these kids, if they come out of school with debt today, they got 50, 60, 70 grand in debt. So we got to start paying that back. You know, so it doesn't surprise me when I'm seeing stuff the first time. The average age for first time buyers 36. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Time to go to school 25, 26, start paying down the, you know, time you rent an apartment, buy a car, pay some debts off, and try to save for a down payment. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, it's 10 years. Like, that's a long time.
I know. And I mean, if you're single, it's 10 times worse. If you have a partner, right, where you're both making good money, it's not as bad. But as one person,
struggle.
Forget it.
You can't do it. I think 2 people, can do it, making good incomes, but a single person today, you know, out of school, university, making $100,000, it's out there, but I don't think there's tons of them. And what does $100,000 income get you today?
Well, you know what?
With debt.
I was just going to say, a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to my mortgage guy, and he had a client that was making $100,000 a year, and he wanted to buy a $500,000 condo, and he couldn't.
No.
And he had 20% down.
Yeah.
Couldn't get approved.
I know. And, you know, I think the feds are meeting again sometime this month, because they met last month about talking about getting rid of this stress test. Something has to be done with that, right? that's another big barrier for people to get into the market, right? They're going to either have to get rid of that or extend amortizations because the property values are still so far up that people can't qualify for a 25-year amortization with a stress test.
Well,
It's
I
just
think
not-
CMHC's up to 30 now or 35, and before they'd only go up to 25. So
I don't think they're up that. I think Canadian Mortgage Housing Corp is still at 25. I didn't see any changes. There's some lenders out there that other insurers will do 30, 35. But if it goes through Canadian Mortgage Housing Corp, I'm almost positive it's 25.
really, eh?
So, yeah. So that's what you're getting based on. Like, you know,
No
that
one can
change.
afford that.
No one can afford that. That's the
Like
problem.
if you can make 100 grand a year, which is a good salary, let's be real. 100 grand is a lot. Like the average person doesn't make that.
No. But is
And
it a
you
lot
can't-
for today's cost of living? I don't think so. It gets you by, right? I think someone today making 65, 70 struggling.
Oh, for
With a small
sure.
family, they're struggling. Like
They're
they're not,
struggling. Oh, the
you know,
food.
the food.
God
the
forbid
cost.
you got to buy lettuce
Well, that's it. You know,
or
and-
strawberries.
right. The cost of groceries are so much more. And again, when it comes out of season, out of that, it's tough. But yeah, I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be an interesting year. And I think it's going to be, the first couple of months, the first quarter will kind of give us some good guidance and seeing where it's going to go.
I think I think we both agree transactions are going to be down. We're not going to have as many transactions as the first quarter of last year. No way.
I don't think so either. But the only way we will is if there's more supply comes on the January, February. But that's not going to happen. So
Does it make sense?
No, and it's that seller's going to wait. So transactions, I don't think we should look at transactions so much. But the prices compared to what they got is going to be very steep, and the media is going to have a goddamn field day with it.
Yep.
Right. So
Okay, that's a wrap for today. You know what I want to talk about next time?